Welcome back, chicos. So at this point, you should have watched the video about the present subjunctive conjugations and completed the 2 supersite activities to practice that. What we're going to talk about quickly in this video is how you actually use the subjunctive in a sentence. So how do you write a sentence using the subjunctive? You cannot write a sentence using the subjunctive in the same way you would write a sentence using the indicative. For example, you could not say yo coma comida, I eat food. We cannot use the subjunctive in this way. Instead, we have to follow a certain sentence structure. Think about it like a math formula. You have to plug each component into the formula. So our little formula for writing sentences using the subjunctive is the subjunctive truck. Okay, and that's why I have this beautiful drawing of a truck on my screen. When you write a sentence with the subjunctive, first thing we have is the main clause of our sentence. And in the main clause, you have a subject and a verb. Subject 1, verb 1. And this is conjugated to the indicative. Remember that the indicative is the present tense that you learned in Spanish 1. So I have a main clause that has a subject and a verb conjugated to the indicative. Then I use the conjunction que, which means that, to connect my main clause to my subordinate clause. Okay, and in the subordinate clause, I have a new subject, subject 2, and a new verb, verb 2. This verb is conjugated to the subjunctive. So to be able to write a sentence using the subjunctive, I have to start with my main clause with my verb in the present indicative, followed by que, and then a new subject, subject 2, followed by a new verb, verb 2, in the subjunctive. For example, if I have yo recomiendo, subject 1, verb 1, this is the regular present tense here, que, 2, estudies. This is subject 2, this is verb 2. Okay, so again, I've got the main clause in the present indicative. Que, I have a new subject and a new verb conjugated to the present subjunctive. Anytime you write a sentence using the subjunctive, you need to follow this structure. But something to keep in mind is not every single verb can trigger the subjunctive in the main clause. There's only certain verbs and expressions that trigger the subjunctive. And these expressions and verbs are what I call weirdos. Okay, they are weirdo verbs and expressions. This means that they trigger the subjunctive. So anytime you have one of these verbs in the front half of your sentence, in your main clause up here, you will use the subjunctive after it. Okay. In your OneNote, underneath your 3.3 present subjunctive notes, you have a page called Weirdo, and it has a list of all of those verbs and expressions. You are responsible for knowing all of those verbs and expressions. Next week, we will do a lot more practice with them. You'll get much more familiar with them. But for your homework, you're going to want to consult that list because you are responsible for knowing that those verbs require the use of the subjunctive. And if you don't know what those verbs mean, you also are responsible for determining what they mean. For example, if you have recomendar is one of those verbs. Another one of those verbs would be insistir, which means to insist. So I could say, ella insiste. There's my subject 1, my verb 1, followed by que. Ella insiste que Maria haga la cama. Subject 2, verb 2. Okay, and again, subject 2, verb 2, that's in the subjunctive. The first half of your sentence is in the regular indicative. Insiste works here because it is a weirdo verb. It tells us to use the subjunctive after it. There are also something called personal expressions. Those would be expressions like es bueno que, es malo que, es importante, es urgente, es necesario que. If you see an expression like that, that's what the I in weirdo stands for, impersonal expression. You have to use the subjunctive with them. So if I have something like es bueno que nosotros ganemos, it's important that we win, okay? This would be an impersonal expression. This is our S1, V1, kind of mushed together into one. S2, V2. When you have impersonal expressions and subjunctive verbs, sometimes they can be followed by just the infinitive. For example, es bueno ganar. And the difference in meaning is in this first one, it says, it's good that we win versus it's good to win. Because there is no K in this sentence, there's no K in this sentence. This means we cannot use subjunctive. Without the K, we're not starting a new clause, so we can't conjugate ganar. Okay? So just be aware that sometimes when you have impersonal expressions, if there's no K in the sentence, you can't conjugate this verb into the subjunctive. But pretty much what I want you to take away from this video is the subjunctive truck. You have your main clause, which is conjugated to the indicative, and that verb must be a weirdo verb. Okay, so your indicative verb must be a weirdo verb from the list in OneNote, followed by K, followed by the subjunctive. So S1, V1, KS2, V2. And you will hear me say that a lot when we are talking about the subjunctive. For the rest of class, you have time to work on your homework, which is a workbook page. You need to do all the activities except for synthesis. Have a great weekend, and if you have any questions about the subjunctive, please feel free to email me. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Adios.